My name is Esther, though to my people I am Hadassah. I never asked to be queen. I never dreamed of royal crowns or golden courts. It all began when the king dismissed Queen Vashti, and the search for a new queen began. I was taken, chosen, not because of confidence, but because of grace I did not understand. My cousin Mordecai told me to hide my identity, and I obeyed. For a while, it seemed peaceful, almost too peaceful. But then came Haman, a man whose hatred was older than any of us realized, an Agagite, a descendant of the Amalekites, those ancient enemies of my people. The old hostility that began in the wilderness still lived in his heart like a smoldering coal, waiting for wind. When Mordecai refused to bow before him, Haman did not just become angry, he became awakened to a hatred he had inherited from generations before him. Then he cast the pur, the lot, and from that single act, a date was chosen, a date to erase my people from the earth. The decree spread across the empire like poison in water. Every Jewish household began to tremble, and Mordecai, my beloved relative, tore his clothes and mourned publicly. When I sent messengers to ask what troubled him, his answer shook me to my core. A genocide had been signed, sealed, approved under the king's authority, and I, Esther, was expected to intervene. But how? How do you walk into a throne room where uninvited guests are executed? How do you plead for a people whose fate already feels sealed? How do you challenge a king who does not even know you are among the condemned? I felt fear I never voiced to anyone. Fear that I could die before uttering a single word. Fear that the king's love for me had cooled. Fear that my silence had already cost too much time. Fear that the crown on my head was too heavy for the courage in my heart. But worst of all, I feared that I had been placed in this palace only to witness my people die. Yet Mordecai's message pierced me deeply. Who knows if you have come to the kingdom for such a time as this? His words felt like a door I did not want to open, but could no longer avoid. I asked my people to fast for me, 3 days, no food, no water. In those days, silence grew louder than voices. My fears fought my faith. I questioned everything. What if God was silent? What if I failed? What if I succeeded, but still lost everything? What if my actions brought destruction sooner? But still, I prepared, and on the 3rd day, I stepped forward. My legs trembled. My heart hammered so violently I could hear it echo in my ears. But I walked, one step after another, toward life or death. When the king saw me, everything stopped. My breath, my heartbeat, my fear, time itself. And then he lifted the golden scepter. I lived. But the mission was not yet complete. The enemy still breathed, and the decree still stood like a sword above every Jewish household. I invited the king and Haman to a banquet. One banquet was not enough. I needed another. Not out of hesitation, but because my spirit sensed the moment was not yet ripe. Something unseen was shifting. A divine thread, pulling events into alignment. That night, the king could not sleep, and in that sleepless night, the chronicles were read. For the first time, he remembered Mordecai's unrewarded heroism, the very man Haman wanted to hang. At that moment, destiny turned. The unseen hand of God moved where no human eye could see. The honor meant for Haman became Mordecai's, and the gallows meant for Mordecai was being built for the man who ordered them.
At the second banquet, I finally spoke. My voice trembled, but it did not break. I revealed my identity. I pleaded for my life and the life of my people. And in that moment, the king's anger ignited, not at me, but at Haman. The truth shattered the room like glass. The mask fell from Haman's face. His scheme was exposed, his fear palpable, his fate sealed by the very king he had manipulated. Haman fell, but the decree lived on. Persian law could not be undone. So I begged again, not for my life, but for the right of my people to defend themselves. The king granted it. Letters were sent, hope rose, strength returned to my people, and on the appointed day, the day meant for our extermination, we stood, fought, and prevailed. What was meant to erase us became the day of our deliverance. And so Purim was born, a celebration not only of survival, but of identity, courage, and divine orchestration. I, Esther, once a hidden orphan, became a voice for a nation, not because I was fearless, but because faith fought my fear and won. And now, I ask you, if you were placed in a position of influence, but stepping forward might cost you everything, would you still speak? Would you risk your life to save those who could not save themselves?